Good morning, and welcome to our Holy Comforters Children's Sunday School online. During these 12 weeks, we will be using Illustrated Ministries and Illustrated Compassion Learning to Live Like God curriculum. During these lessons, we will hear different stories in the Bible that focus on compassion. Compassion is having concern for the suffering and misfortune of others. In having compassion for others, even when we cannot fully understand their situation, we are drawn closer to living like Jesus. This week, our story is about Jesus again. If you want to read it for yourself in your own Bible, you can go to Luke chapter 7, verses 11 through 17. Here's a rundown of our story about Jesus and the compassion that heals. Jesus went to a town called Nain, and his disciples and a large crowd came with him. As he came to the gate of the town, a man who had died was being carried out. A large crowd came alongside his mother. She was a widow, and he was her only son. When Jesus saw her, he had compassion for her. He told her, "Do not weep." Then he came forward and touched the coffin. The people carrying it stopped moving, and Jesus said, "Young man, listen, get up." The dead man sat up and began to speak, and Jesus gave him to his mother. The people who saw it were amazed and awed, and maybe a little bit afraid. They were hushed in wonder. Then they began to shout, "Someone who knows God, who feels what God feels, is among us, and Jesus sees us and cares for us." And everywhere people were talking about Jesus and what he had done. Now, let's take a minute and think about this story. Have you ever heard it before? Is there something in the story that stands out to you? Maybe something small, or maybe something big. How do you imagine the widow felt when Jesus shared in her sadness? Why does it feel important to know Jesus felt compassion and empathy for the widow before he healed her son? Can you imagine some ways empathy is powerful in our lives and our relationships? Have there been times you showed empathy to someone by feeling what he or she was feeling? What about a time when someone showed empathy to you? It's easiest for us to show empathy and compassion to people who are a lot like us, and harder to show this towards people who are very different from us. Who is someone in your life that is quite different from you? How could you show more empathy towards that person? There are many people in our community that are different from us. They have situations in lives that may not be able to understand. Women's shelters are an area of great need, and just like in Jesus' day, single mothers easily fall through the societal cracks. Women's shelters often need things that we can help provide easily. This week, I encourage you to collect items for a women's shelter. Things like diapers, blankets, hygiene products, and other things that might be needed. You can donate them directly to the Montgomery County Women's Shelter or drop them off here at the church marked Women's Shelter, and we will make sure they get there. We can't heal people like Jesus did, but we can care for people in many ways. This is a great way to show care and compassion to those in need in our community. Now let's end our time with a prayer. Dear God, thank you for our ability to understand others' feelings. Help us to be sensitive to the experiences of those around us, like Jesus was with the mother in our story today, so we can be compassionate and helpful to those going through difficult times. Amen. I hope you enjoyed this week's lesson, and I hope you'll join us again next week. Bye. Have a great week.